How do you know if you qualify for like an FHA loan?
The exact same thing. The exact same thing. And actually, on VA loans, this is the only way for a non veteran to acquire a VA loan. Now, there is a catch with that as well. And it's that if a veteran, if a seller, that obviously it's a veteran that has a VA loan on their property, lets a non veteran assume the loan, or even a veteran without full entitlement, then that entitlement gets tied up there until that new homeowner either refis or sells or pays off that loan.
Got it. So,
Mhm.
do properties that have assumable loans generally sell at a premium?
That's a good question. It really depends. From my experience, it has come down to the equity because that's the catch with assumable loans, right? So just like the rate doesn't change, the loan amount doesn't change. So I'll give you a prime example. Uh, we have a listing that currently has a $350,000 loan amount at a 2.75. This is a VA loan, just under 260. Let's just round it down to 250. And I'm sorry, 350. And we're selling it for 500, right? So that 350 could be assumed by the buyer. Now that gap is where we have to find, some creativity, right? And normally, from my experience, there's three different ways that we can get that done, right? So number one, the easiest route is where the buyer covers that difference. So again, in this example, if it's five, we're selling it at five, and it's the loan amount is 350, then the buyer would come up with that 150 difference. The second option is where the buyer is able to get a second loan, second mortgage, or a HELOC to be able to cover that difference. Now, thankfully, we partner with a local lender that, at least here in Florida, is able to do this, and they're able to cover up to a combined loan to value of 90%. So in this particular scenario of that $500,000 property, we have 350 already with the assumable loan. This lender could give us 100,000 to get to that 90%, and then the buyer would be able to cover that 50 out of pocket, or would have to cover that 50 out of pocket. And then the third option that of that we can also do is where either the complete amount or a portion of that difference could be done through seller financing. So it's just a way to get creative to be able to, again, have buyers benefit from these low rates and help our sellers move inventory.
What's the name of the bank that does the HELOCs for you guys at the 90% down in
So
Florida?
they're part of through our brokerage. They're called our One Alliance, One Lending Alliance. We have three particular branch managers that have already tapped into that. Now they're only currently doing it in Florida, uh, but I'm sure again as this continues to expand, more states are going to be open to it.
Oh yeah, not only that, but it's great that they're able to do that as well too. What is the
Mhm.
process like? Let's say that you have a buyer that you find a seller that has an assumable loan, they accept your offer. How long does that assumable process take? Is there an appraisal? Do you have to qualify for the loan?
First of all, time. Um, that used to be one of our biggest issues was time. Assumable loans would be taking on average with my first ones anywhere between 4 to 6 months, right? Primarily because of the fact that, when we were making these calls, lenders were, or servicers, let's say, that were not having uh, the assumable departments weren't as big as they currently are now. We come to find out, obviously, that's something that's not really at top of their priority, right? To them,
Mhm.
primarily the best thing to do is, hey, just pay off the loan and get a new one. But now we've been able to, with our title company that has a ton of experience with these assumptions and knows how to follow up and knows how to submit the packages, we've gotten them down to as little as 45 days. So we haven't equaled that, 25, 30 days closing that we could do on regular deals, at least here in our market, but very close to it. So 45, I would say, would be the soonest that we've been able to do them. Your second question, appraisal. One of the best things about these type of loans, there's no appraisal. Again, unless the buyer wants to, but it's not required because the buyer's assuming that loan. Bank doesn't care really what happens in between loan amount and sales price. And then your final question about qualifying, yes. So the buyer has to be able to qualify for the loan. Now, there is something that we learned recently, and it's that investors could qualify. So investors could qualify. It doesn't have to be primary residence only, but they have to be able to do a full doc review loan. So in
Got
other
it.
words, they have to have, the income, the credit, etc.
How would that look like if an investor bought the assumable loan? Would they have to put like, or they'd have to cover the gap regardless? But how would that look in terms of qualification?
Just that they're qualifying for an FHA, except the fact that it doesn't have to be primary residence. So as long as they can provide credit score and income, like the loan to value, then it could be done.
Got it. Okay. And
Mhm.
then, how do you know if you qualify for like a FHA or like an FHA loan? You know, like is it the same requirement as when you're getting an FHA loan, or are those requirements different? Like debt to income ratios, credit scores, that sort of thing.
The exact same thing. The exact same thing. And actually, on VA loans, okay, this is the only way for a non veteran to acquire a VA loan. Now, there is a catch with that as well. And it's that if a veteran, if a seller, obviously it's a veteran that has, a VA loan on their property, lets a non-veteran assume the loan, or even a veteran without full entitlement, then that entitlement gets tied up there until that new homeowner either refis or sells or pays out that loan. So we've come to find out that most of our sellers, um, by the way, I'm a veteran myself. We help, a good part of our business down here is helping fellow veterans, relocate inbound and outbound of South Florida. A lot of people don't know this, but South Florida is a huge military town. We got Southern Command, Homestead Air Force Base, and a ton of different Coast Guard bases. So for those sellers, those veteran sellers that are not really looking to reinvest or buy something in the future, then yes, they're willing to, to let a non-veteran assume it. But especially for that younger demographic that they're obviously thinking about buying in the near future or sometime in the future, then it has to be veteran to veteran with entitlement, right? That buyer veteran has to have enough entitlement because if not, again, that entitlement, let's say that 300,000 or 350 in this example that I was giving you, that's actually a VA loan. If a veteran without full entitlement gets that, then that money is going to be tied up for that seller in the future.